presentation, maybe some people have questions, or we use the chat and on the future chat to have any question, and after the presentation we answer the questions where is better for everybody.
I think let's save the questions till the end so that they can get through their whole presentation, and I'll be monitoring the chat and keep note of questions. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
I have a few other announcements. All participants, please keep in your microphones mute in order to listen very well while the presentation. So for Morgan and Lauren will be able to do the lecture. And remember that we have the chat and you can use for the questions if you have. We try to get those questions and any suggestion after the presentation. And now I'm going to turn over to Lauren and Morgan, and thank you again for being here tonight. Morgan, you have your microphone in mute. You can, okay. So you can start. So you will share your screen for the PowerPoint.
I think they're having a little bit of technical difficulty.
Yes.
Morgan, you're still muted. Oh, there you go.
Okay, there you go. So.
Okay.
Perfect.
We can't hear you.
Okay. How about now?
You're very faint.
Okay. How about we are going to test the volume here and call in. Can you hear us any better now?
No.
Okay. Give us just one moment. We're trying to call in on a phone. I apologize for the delay.
And thank you for your patience. Remember, this is the live. Sometimes we have some difficulties with the volume of those computers, but we really appreciate.
Hi, can everybody hear us now? I can. Yes? Okay. Wonderful. Hi, everyone. So as you can see, we've had a little bit of computer audio issues for the last few times we've been on Zoom, so we tried calling in. I apologize for the delay, but just to introduce ourselves, my name is Morgan. I'm a registered dietitian at the Shop Rite of Flanders, and this is Lauren. She's also a registered dietitian at the Shop Rite of Newton. Thank you so much for having us here. Today we are going to be presenting on fast food versus whole foods. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can get started. Can everyone see okay? Great. Okay, so just as a reminder, I'm not sure where everyone is located, but most Shop Rites offer free nutrition services, meaning we have a registered dietitian right here in the store. We do all kinds of things like one-on-one nutrition counseling, in-store programs, demos, and sampling. We also do individualized store tours, kids classes, and community events. So we do plenty of lectures like these, and we also do cooking classes, which are really fun. So we're going to start by going over what is whole food versus what is processed food. All right, everyone. So basically, when we think of whole foods, the idea behind these types of foods are that they are perhaps superior to processed foods. Whole foods can be thought of as maybe more nutrient dense. You can think of fruits and vegetables or even unprocessed grains. And then we move on to our processed foods. So these can be thought of as maybe being inferior to those whole foods. So something that is not as nutrient dense, maybe is not as health forward. But at the end of the day, most foods, if not all foods, are processed. Basically everything that you eat, unless you are picking it and growing it yourself, will be processed. Even the apples that you eat will be picked off of that tree and then processed in some way by the time that it meets your grocery store. So we have a couple different examples of things that we want to share with you. So something that we're going to show you first is our brown rice. This is a whole grain product, brown rice. It is just the rice. This is going to take a little bit longer to boil, and then we'll compare it to something that is quick and easy. So we have our Uncle Ben's microwavable rice. The one in Morgan's right hand is the brown rice. This has 15 milligrams of sodium as compared to our garlic butter, which has 500 milligrams of sodium. So they are all different types of brown rice. The first one I showed you is the least processed, and then the second two are both processed. However, one is very health forward and the other one has a little bit more additives in it. So it's higher in sodium. This may not be as health forward as a plain brown rice. If you have certain conditions such as high blood pressure or a renal disorder, that's something that we really need to be mindful of, is the sodium. Also, we can also compare that to things like pastas and whatnot. So you'll see our processed foods. So the Barilla pasta, like the ones I just showed you, these are just whole foods, but they are changed in their shape. So they are still providing you with the same nutrients. You will just not recognize them maybe in the shape that they originally came in. However, these are still nutrient-dense foods that can provide you with lots of different vitamins and minerals. So broccoli florets, these guys are going to be picked at the peak time of ripeness. They're blanched. So all of those nutrients remain completely intact. So these are going to be just as fresh, if not fresher, than the broccoli that you may find in your fresh produce section. Your no added sugar fruit cocktail is just canned fruit with no added sugar. So this is actually a good option for you and something cost effective when you're not buying in season. And then same thing like our kashi go and whatnot, just grains, whole grains, so we're getting good protein and fiber. And the dole would be good to add to maybe a smoothie to get in some of those greens and fruit. So the overall messaging here is that, yes, processed foods are typically not seen as ideal. However, in all of these circumstances, a lot of processed foods can also be healthy, like Lauren said with the broccoli, the fruits, and the veggies. So there's two different definitions of processed foods. But to start, we thought it would be helpful for us to go through what exactly it is we do want to have on a daily basis, and then we're going to go back through and see how that compares to our fast food. So as you'll see here, and on this page, we have something called My Plate. My Plate replaced the food pyramid. I don't know if anyone remembers the food pyramid that we used to have. It wasn't the best representation of health, so now we're looking at something that's a little bit more visually appealing. So here we have our 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy. We are going to go into a little bit more detail with each one and talk about what specifically we need. But some overall tips and tricks is to 1, watch out for added salt, sugar, and fat. 2, consider your cooking preparation and your cooking methods, meaning deep frying something not as healthful as maybe grilling. That's what we mean when we say cooking prep. Consider your portion sizes. We want to remember that not all fats are created equally, meaning that there are heart-healthy fats and fats that are less healthy for our heart, and that nutrient density versus calorie density. So what that means is we can have a snack that's very calorie dense, but not nutrient dense. So those are the basic tips. And you'll see here on the right-hand side, we have a nutrition facts panel. And it could be very complicated to read and understand a nutrition facts panel. But just if you want to go through and highlight the most important parts are, 1, what is the serving? So here we see it's 1.5 cups, so being true to that serving size. 2, how much saturated fat is in this product? So saturated fat is something that isn't very good for us. We want to try to avoid it in order to keep our hearts healthy. 3 is we want to look at the cholesterol and the sodium. 4, we want to understand how much dietary fiber is in this food, because dietary fiber is something that we want more of. Sugars we want to take a look at to have less. And then checking in to see how much protein is in a food is just a great bonus. So the way I think of it is less fat, less sodium, more fiber, less sugar, and more protein. So there are some things we want less of, some things we want more of. So I'm going to hand it over to Lauren, and she's going to go through a couple of these food groups and what specifically we need from them. All right, so moving on to vegetables, if you refer back to that My Plate, our produce category was the largest section of that plate. So that kind of gives us a good idea that we really want to make an emphasis to get a lot of vegetables. So minimum of 2.5 cups daily. The recommended serving for fruits and veggies is anywhere from 5 to 9 a day. I understand that may not be attainable for everybody all the time. So something you could think about is to strive for 5. So trying to get 2 fruits, which we'll move on to in a little bit, and at least 3 vegetable servings each day. So perhaps you eat eggs in the morning. Maybe you can add a handful of spinach or kale to that omelet. Maybe you have a sandwich each day. Perhaps you can add some greens or tomato or even onion slices to your sandwich, and then maybe adding a frozen bag of veggies or a fresh option as well to your dinner. Snacks can also be a great way to incorporate vegetables if you find that you're lacking them in your meals. So eating the rainbow. So we don't want to say you're always eating sweet potatoes and kale. They are just your go-to favorites. Well, that is wonderful, but we don't want to only eat the same. We have all of these different vegetables like Swiss chard.
Above the record button.
Sorry, I'm not sure when exactly we got muted. But basically what we were saying is we want to get at least 3 servings of veggies each day if that is the bare minimum that you can do, and then making sure that we are getting that variety. So not only eating peppers every day, but maybe switching it up, so including kale, spinach, carrots, onions, so trying to get a variety because each of those different foods offer different vitamins and minerals which have their own functions that can support our health. So moving on to fruits, like I said, the strive for 5, at least 2 servings of fruits each day would be the minimum that I would recommend for an adult. And again, eating a variety of fruits, we can think of fruits as being nature's candy, so they are naturally sweet on their own. So trying to vary up that intake, so maybe, again, you'll notice that it's difficult for you to get in fruit throughout the day, so incorporating that into your snacks would be good. Grapes can be a wonderful snack. I had grapes today. Something I like to do is freeze them. It makes them a little bit cooler, so you savor them a little bit longer. Fruits like pineapple and apples can also be wonderful additions. And just like our vegetables, all of the different colors and different products all have their own array of vitamins and minerals. So that's why it's so important that we vary that intake so we're getting enough of all of those good things for us. Okay, so moving on to grains, the one food group that it seems to be most people are afraid of or maybe think aren't the healthiest for us. So the fact of the matter is that our carbohydrates or our grains are excellent for us, and we actually need quite a bit of them every day. The idea is that grains cause weight gain, but that's actually not true. Our carbohydrates are what predominantly fuel our brain function and give us the most energy. So when it comes to grains, a good rule of thumb is trying to choose whole grains whenever possible. And we need about 5 to 6 ounces of grains daily, which I know is a little bit of an obsolete number. So I just try to incorporate some source of whole grain with every meal. That could be whole wheat bread, oatmeal, brown rice, popcorn's actually a whole grain, quinoa, or some of our whole wheat pastas are all really good options. The next one we have is protein. So protein is excellent for us. It helps our muscles, and it also helps us to stay full for a long period of time. Our rule is to try and choose lean protein sources whenever possible. And what that word means, lean, is that it is less high in fat. So things like chicken breast, if you're choosing a beef, making sure it's lean, turkey, fish, and eggs are all great sources of protein, in addition to our plant-based proteins like tofu, tempeh, nuts, and nut butter, and of course, beans. All right, so moving on to dairy, Morgan had stressed the importance of choosing lean options. We want to avoid things that are high in saturated fat, as that isn't great for our heart. So choosing low or reduced fat dairy, so perhaps a 1% or even a skim milk, reduced fat cheese. We want to make sure that we're getting about 3 cups each day. So 3 cups or 3 servings, so maybe this is cottage cheese or a glass of milk. Yogurt and regular cheese are also great servings. Or great sources, excuse me. So dairy is going to provide us with not only some protein, but also calcium, which can help to keep our teeth and bones nice and strong. All right, so fat, similar to protein, fat is going to help to keep us full. It's very satiating. So with that being said, we don't want to eat too much of it, especially before maybe we're going to bed or before starting physical activity. It takes a little bit longer to digest, so it can result in some stomach upset. So examples of our heart-healthy fats, the fats that we want to have, would be olive oil, nuts and nut butter, so that could be peanut butter, cashew butter, butter. Dairy butter is also a source of fat, avocado, and coconut oil and bacon are sources of saturated fat. So something that I would recommend is when you're getting, if you were to eat peanut butter, is to opt for the natural peanut butter. That is going to be the one with the oil on the top. The ones that are all nice and homogenized, those are very shelf stable. We want to avoid those types of products. Maybe they use hydrogenated oils, which are not heart healthy. So when you see that oil on the top, all you have to do is give it a little bit of a stir, but it's a good way to ensure you're sticking with your heart healthy fat. Okay, so now that we know what we need, we're going to move into a little bit of fact and fiction. So here, fast food and takeout options often have hidden sources of fat, sodium, sugar, and are also larger in size. So those are some of the issues when it comes to constantly choosing fast food options over whole food options. But a great tip is to make Shop Rite one of your one-stop shops to save yourself time, money, and calories. So why do we rely on fast food? So most of the time it's for convenience. Maybe we don't have the most confidence in the kitchen. Maybe we didn't have time to plan out our day. Maybe we're looking for an inexpensive option, or maybe we just have a really busy schedule. All right, so we can think of Shop Rite as being our one-stop fast food shop. Certain departments have really great options that are just grab and go. So in the produce department, you can look to the fresh fruit cuts. I myself just had some honeydew. Morgan had some pineapples, so we definitely utilize that area. They have fun shapes for different veggies. So the spiralized veggies, those can be great to throw maybe in a salad, or say you're in a pinch and you mix that together even with regular pasta or even a little bit of pasta sauce, a little garlic and butter. The bowl and basket salad kits, all you have to do would be to add a protein source, so maybe you just add in a tuna fish packet. And then we also have some local produce, so Jersey fresh produce that would be found in our farmers market section. So moving over to the deli or appetizing department, we have the packed out options, which could be great for a lunch or dinner, like grilled chicken or grilled salmon. We also have some grilled veggie selections, and then rotisserie chicken, as well as the pre-shredded rotisserie chicken that already has the skin off, which is great for cutting back on saturated fat. at the deli counter itself, there are options like grilled chicken, grilled veggies, chickpea salads, different types of kale salads, so you definitely have a variety over there. And then from the hot foods bar, you can get lean proteins like chicken and different types of pre-made veggie options. All right, so continuing on with this trend, taking a stroll down the middle aisles, Triscuit crackers can be a great snack addition. These guys are made with whole grains. The fruit cups and 100% juice. Laura bars, these are a fruit and nut bar, so I like to use these as like a pre-workout snack. RX bars are also very similar. They have minimal ingredients and they're all listed on the front. Using a canned light tuna or even the Good Catch fish free tuna. It's a plant-based fish line using all natural plant-based options, so maybe you're vegan or you are trying to reduce your meat intake, even fish, that could be a good option. So our whole wheat pasta and different sauces, so Bowl and Basket, which is a Shop Rite brand, has very affordable options for you. The Wholesome Pantry microwavable brown rice or even the 7-grain rice if you're looking for a little bit more of a variety. And then the Minute Brown Rice cups, as well as our natural peanut butter, which is only $1.49. So just a few more quick options to grab instead of going to a fast food restaurant. We have Healthy Choice Power Bowls, which in a pinch, if you need a dinner and a flash, those are great options. Same thing with the Wholesome Pantry Steam in a Bag grains and vegetables. So if you don't have time to make that entire, pan of quinoa or that entire pot of rice, you can use a steamable option. Green Giant Harvest protein bowls are a great one, and Dr. Prager's products as well. So the big takeaway here is that if we identify the reasons why we go to fast food places and we have these solutions, then maybe we wouldn't be so quick to rely on them. A couple other ones, so these were mentioned earlier, the fast snacks. So again, the bars, carrots and celery, these are all pre-cut, or you can cut them yourself. We have mini Shop Rite hummus cups, just quick grab-and-go options. A lot of these were already mentioned. Yogurt, bean chips with salsa. So having these things on hand and even taking these things with you on the go is a great way to avoid going to a fast food restaurant. I know if I have a very long day at work or I'm on the road and I'm traveling a lot and I don't have these quick options with me, I'm much more likely to go through the drive-thru or stop at Panera, and having these things available to you will help prevent that. And then this is just reiterating what we said earlier with some appy department options. I added sushi in there because that's a really good option that we often forget about. Store-made salads, reheat fish and veggies, turkey breast sandwiches. Like, there are so many grab-and-go options at the grocery store that sometimes we forget about. Okay, so now I'm going to give it over to Lauren, and we are going to do a little bit of a fast food comparison. So this is if you have to go through the drive-thru, you're totally in a pinch, and you want to know what choice can you make on the menu that's a little bit better. All right, so we're going to get started with a Chick-fil-A sandwich. So our option on the left is our deluxe sandwich as compared to our grilled chicken sandwich. So it's pretty shocking, but you'll see our deluxe sandwich weighs in at 500 calories with 22 grams of fat, 44 grams of carbohydrates, and 7 grams of sugar. However, compared to the grilled chicken sandwich, we have 320 calories, 6 grams of fat, 41 grams of carbs, and 9 grams of sugar. So we're saving almost 200 calories and 20 grams of fat. And this isn't the heart-healthy fat. This is the fat that is saturated and not great for our heart. All right, so next, going to Burger King, we have the bacon double cheeseburger or the double Whopper. So comparing those options, we see that the bacon double cheeseburger has 400 calories, 22 grams of fat, 670 milligrams of sodium, and 27 grams of carbohydrates, as compared to the double Whopper with over 1,000 calories, 75 grams of fat, over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, and about 50 grams of carbohydrates. So by choosing that bacon double cheeseburger, which will probably be just as satisfying, you're going to be saving yourself 740 calories, over 50 grams of fat, and close to 500 milligrams of sodium, which is actually pretty substantial. Okay, so the next option, if you go out for breakfast and you want to do, I think it's like the Grand Slam, or this is calling it the split decision, or the 2x2x2 combo. We have the split decision is over 1,000 calories with 72 grams of fat. It's almost 70 grams of protein and 19 grams of sugar when compared to something that you have, like if you look at even at the 2x2 combo, you have your protein source is your eggs, your fat source is your bacon, and then there's also a carbohydrate source for your pancakes. So it's actually not bad. We have a 500-calorie meal, 26 grams of fat, 42 grams of carbs, and 8 grams of sugar. So you're saving 590 calories and 46 grams of fat just by choosing that other option. So Duncan, I know that this is a really popular one, a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich versus a wake-up wrap. So the sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich, 720 calories, 52 grams of fat, 42 grams of carbs, and 6 grams of sugar. The wake-up wraps are only 180 calories, 10 grams of fat, 14 grams of carbs, and 1 gram of sugar. I noticed that they're really small, but just a good tidbit is that you can even order 2 wake-up wraps and still be saving 360 calories. So even if one wrap isn't satisfying enough, you can certainly do 2 and still come in under that sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich. Healthier options. All right, so moving on to some of the healthier options. So we're going to start out with Wendy's. So we have our spicy chicken wrap. This guy comes in at almost 400 calories with 17 grams of protein and 19 grams of fat, as well as the small chili. So this is 160 calories. We're getting 14 grams of protein, 4 grams of fat, and 6 grams of fiber. So that's actually a really good amount of fiber that is going to help keep us full. So together, if you were to add these 2 meals, or foods, we would get 530 calories, 31 grams of protein, and 23 grams of fat. So this is something that will keep us full and energized. All right, so going to Panera Bread, we're doing the You Pick 2. So we have a half Caesar salad with chicken, a little bit over 200 calories, 14 grams of fat, and 17 grams of protein, with half of the bacon turkey Bravo sandwich, 310 calories, 11 grams of fat, and 23 grams of protein, with an apple on the side. So altogether, that's coming to 610 calories with 25 grams of fat and 45 grams of protein. So again, that's another really filling, well-balanced meal. So Chipotle, this is like my favorite go-to if I'm in a pinch. I'm actually going to have it for dinner tonight. Chipotle at its basic form is just good quality carbs, proteins, and fats and vegetables. So it's really pretty simple. So this is a burrito bowl with chicken, lettuce, cheese, fajita vegetables, beans, and salsa. So the chicken's 180 calories. I mean, that's really the biggest calorie counter that you're having in the lot. So it's 470 calories, 16.5 grams of fat, and 33 grams of carbs with only 5 grams of sugar. These bowls are quite large. They're very filling. I have had them several times where I've only eaten half. And only the really big calorie bombs that you're going to get in a Chipotle bowl would be from cheese, sour cream, or the queso sauce. So if you're just choosing these whole foods ingredients, Chipotle is actually a pretty good stop if you're in a pinch. Then we have McDonald's. Again, our best bet is just the hamburger with a side salad and a kid's fry. We have a total of 520 calories, 25 grams of fat, 57 grams of carb, and 10 grams of sugar. So overall, these options, they're not something that we want to be picking all the time or every day. The takeaway with fast food is that it is always much higher in sodium, saturated fat, and sugar. And the portions are always much larger than we want them to be. So it's not like we are encouraging you to eat these things every single day, but if you are in a pinch, these are the best options available. Or if you can plan a little bit ahead of time, coming to Shop Rite in the store and seeing us even and having us help you pick out options that are really quick and easy, but you're less likely to go to these restaurants is even better. But we included some copycat recipes at the end. So these are things we don't have to go through individually, but I think you'll certainly find them to be helpful. The first one being a copycat Starbucks pumpkin latte, if you prefer that, or if you usually get that at Starbucks. There's a great one to have at home that you're saving like half of the calories on. It says on here, save almost 200 calories. Here's the directions for that. And again, you all have the slides. So this is the copycat of the Panera Bread Frontega Chicken Panini, another really good option. This saves you 300 calories. So these things can be easily made at home. The reason why fast food is so much higher in fat and sodium is mostly for preservation. So these things are in the restaurants a little bit longer. So here's the instructions for that. Here's a copycat Chipotle bowl. And what questions do you guys have for us? Because Lauren and I would be more than happy to answer any of them for you.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really interesting.
You're welcome.
I learned so much.
I'm so glad.
So really very direct, and those comparisons were really startling. So,
yeah, we thought maybe it'd be helpful to kind of see them side by side.
Yeah, it was great. So let me just say that a couple people put in chat to me that they, if you registered late, you didn't get the handout. So just put your email in the chat to me, and I will make sure I send it out to you later on this evening. So what the first question we have is a question about the bacon double cheeseburger. I think that was Burger King, perhaps.
Yes.
So the question is that she thought that it would be worse choice because of the bacon, and confused about how that can have fewer calories and fat.
Yes, that's a really good question, the Burger King bacon double cheeseburger. So it's likely due to size, just the quantity of beef on the patty. Like the double Whopper, I haven't had either of them in a long time, but it's 9 times out of 10 when something like that doesn't add up on the menu, it's because of size. So either the bacon double cheeseburger is much smaller or uses a lot less ground beef, that when compared to the double Whopper, there's just so much more ground beef that's how it outweighs fat and calories wise.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So because we're the Madison Library, the closest Shop Rite to us is in Chatham. And I don't think that those pictures were from the Chatham Shop Rite, because I don't think that the prepared food section is nearly as nice as the ones in the picture that you show. I'm seeing some nodding heads. So we want to revamp to our local Shop Rite.
Yeah, I think that's important to note that every Shop Rite is so different, and that they really cater to the area that they're in and what their population tends to like. So every Shop Rite has an appy department. We call it appy. It's more or less the deli. And they all have pre-made options. It just kind of depends on what Shop Rite you're at. Like, for example, there are a lot more options in our Shop Rite of Sparta than there might be here, the Shop Rite of Newton, or in Flanders. It really just depends, but regardless of where you're at, there are a lot of quick options that maybe we can show you in the aisles as well, even if you don't have those pre-prepared options in the appy department.
Yeah, that was great. Like I think it was the Del Monte fruit. You know, I always think, oh, if it's in cans, it's no good. It's probably got a lot of sodium in it, needs all the preservatives, right? But You're saying that it's really just as good as what you buy in the produce section?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think Lauren touched on the difference between fresh versus frozen fruits and veggies. So frozen fruits and veggies are sometimes even more nutrient dense than fresh. And this is because a fresh fruit is picked way before it ends up at your grocery store. It's usually picked a little bit too early even, and then it sits on a truck and it loses some of its nutrient density in that way. Whereas if you're choosing a frozen option, it's picked at the peak of harvest, meaning that it is completely as nutrient dense and as ripe as it's going to get, and then it's flash frozen. So sometimes we have better options frozen. When it comes to canned goods, they're still perfectly fine. They are a little bit more processed than a frozen option, but what we want to do is with vegetables, we want to always choose low sodium or no salt added and rinse them really well to get rid of that extra salt. And then with fruit options, we also want to make sure that we're choosing them that they're packed in only their own fruit juice or in water. So they're not packed in syrup. Mm-hmm. The only downside with canned fruit is that you might not be getting that skin. So like on an apple, or, I mean, they don't really usually have canned apples except for pie filling, but in general, you're not getting that nice skin. So like peaches, for example, all the fiber is in the skin. So that's really the only positive. But again, canned fruit is a totally fine option, especially if you're on the go.
Great. You had talked about with the grains that you should have, I think, was it a cup and a half a day of grains?
So the serving size for grains is considered 5 to 6 ounces. I think that it's very difficult to think of things in terms of ounces.
Mhm.
So how I think of it, and maybe Lauren, you can speak to this as well, is that every time I eat a meal, I have some sort of carbohydrate source. Sometimes that's a grain, sometimes it's potatoes, but most of the time it's going to be like a bread, a pasta, or a rice. And every time I have that, I try to make sure it's a whole grain option. So I just include it on my plate as a part of every meal.
Okay, because I was thinking, you know, if you have one piece of whole wheat bread, how do you possibly figure out how many ounces that is?
Right. Yeah. So I would just take it as one piece of whole wheat bread is one serving. I wouldn't go crazy and like only limit yourself to half of a sandwich. You can certainly have the whole sandwich, but just thinking in terms of what is on this nutrition facts panel, especially with rice and pasta, and trying to go off of that serving size is helpful as well. Most of the time with pasta, it's 2 ounces or about 1 cup of cooked pasta, and with rice, it's about a half cup of uncooked pasta or uncooked rice.
So I see the brand on that pasta is Banza. I
Mhm.
have to say personally, I have tried the whole wheat pasta and they just don't taste anything like, you know, the pasta that we're used to.
Yeah.
So I have stayed away from them. So I'm curious to hear your opinions if you think there are some that taste better than others. Is that Banza a good one? I think you had a picture of Barilla Protein Plus before.
Yeah. So Bonds is actually my least favorite. I think that they have the most different tasting. Like they taste different compared to the others. If you're going to go with like a lentil pasta or a bean pasta, I think that the Barilla red lentil rotini is great if you wanted to go with the bean option. But in my opinion, I think the gold standard pasta for best taste and best nutrition facts panel is the Barilla Protein Plus pasta. This pasta is just about identical to a white pasta. It tastes exactly the same as a regular white pasta. I can fool my significant other with this. You can fool kids with it. But there's 5 grams of fiber and 10 grams of protein. So this, by far, I think is the best one.
Great, thank you. That's a great tip.
Hi.
Hi. So you had held the nutrition label. You were saying the way that you like to think that you should have less of this, more of that, less of this, more of that. I was wondering if how do you remember that? Like you guys remember that because you're a nutritionist, but for a regular
Yes.
Joe like us, like do you have an acronym or something, you know, that a trick?
No acronym really, but I would just really recommend starting up at the top. So, we start at the top. So we start out with that servings per container and then that serving size. So like Morgan said, 2 ounces of pasta, which is the serving size, and then kind of just reading your way down the label. So now it's really great. The food label has changed a bit. So we actually have some bolded sections. Like I'm looking at the Bonza pasta. I'm not sure if you can see that. So we have total fat. Well, we talked about saturated fat being not so great for us. So we want to keep that limited, and our heart healthy fat or unsaturated fat isn't necessarily listed. So the 3.5 grams of fat here, they're not coming from the saturated fat or trans fat. So we know that they're all heart healthy fats. So I would just start at the top and work your way down. So next we would go to cholesterol, like Morgan had said. No cholesterol. We have 2% of our daily value of sodium. That is nothing. And then we go to our carbohydrates and our fiber. We get 5 grams of dietary fiber, which is quite fabulous. No added sugars because we want to keep those added sugars pretty low. And then protein, we have 13 grams of protein per 1 2-ounce serving. So this is actually really great for a plant-based option. A lot of people fear that when they are eating plant-based or when they don't have meat, like, oh, geez, I'm not going to get enough protein, but that's not really true.
Right. You had talked about the peanut butter and you were saying that the natural is better because of the oils.
Yeah.
So is the hydrogenated oil what makes it more shelf stable?
Yes, yes. So they're hydrogenated. They add in some hydrogen atoms. Yeah, so when you are stirring that peanut butter, you're basically doing the act of hydrogenating by making it all one homogeneous mixture. A lot of people maybe don't even realize that, and that's why maybe they're grabbing that Skippy. But just because it says natural, it's always just a good idea to check the nutrition facts label and just make sure that we're just pretty much using that its own oil. So the peanuts, it can have a little bit of salt. That's also okay. But we just want to pick something that's natural, so it's not going to have any extra oils like palm oil or hydrogenated oils and any added sugars.
So I have a question for in terms of donating food to food pantries. So all of the recommendations that you're making for us tonight, are those good guidelines to follow when making donations to food pantries?
Yeah,
or, do you have to be more
absolutely. You know,
concerned about-
everybody, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Everybody, would benefit from eating like this. So if that's something that you're looking to donate, that's wonderful.
Was just thinking about sort of shelf stability.
Yeah. Like these guys, they'll last quite a while. This expiration date, best by November of 2022. So, that's not really a concern. Same thing pretty much with the other pastas and the brown rice and anything canned.
Okay, great. So one of my favorites from Chipotle is the guacamole. And
Oh, yes.
I noticed that you did not include that in something that's okay to order. So what's the story with guacamole? Is it good or
Yeah,
bad?
guacamole's fine. It's avocados, so heart-healthy fats, and typically there's going to be a little bit of extra vegetables in there, like a tomato, maybe even some onions, some garlic, some spices.
Is it high in calories?
Well, it's made from avocados, and avocados are a high source of fat, but it's the heart-healthy fat. So yes, it'll be high in calories, but it's not necessarily something that's bad. It's not like it's full of saturated fat, and that's something that we would recommend you to stay away from. Avocados are great, and I recommend them to all my clients.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So does anyone have any other questions you can put in chat? I think it's just been so interesting. So if anyone wants to make an appointment with either of you, are they able to do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so if you would share, is it okay if I share your email then with
Please
them?
do.
With everyone, is that the best way to reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe everybody had a copy of the presentation.
Oh, great.
Our contact info is on the last slide.
Okay, great. So
Right.
one last question before we let you go.
Sure.
Is there a real difference with oatmeal?
Nope. It's all, whether you're doing quick oats, instant oats, slow cooking Irish oats, all pretty much giving you the same amount of protein, carbs, and fiber. Just instant oats are going to be those pour cook guys, so they're going to cook a lot quicker. They're going to be those minute oats as compared to something that you have to put on the stove and cook for a little bit longer to break down.
And do you have a fruit that you like to put on your oatmeal, or how do you like to top your oatmeal? Maybe some peanut butter?
Yes, definitely peanut butter. I also like peanut butter powder, but I do frozen berries personally, and a lot of times I will just put them, like, I'll do overnight oats. So frozen blueberries are my personal favorite, so I'll just do, like, the instant oatmeal with some peanut butter powder, some chia seeds, and then the frozen blueberries. Sometimes I'll use milk. Most times I'll use water. Just depends on what I have. And then I'll just let them kind of chill overnight in the fridge, and then when I'm ready to have them the next morning, maybe when I get to work or something, that's what I'll do.
And then a question about rice and burrito bowls. So
Okay.
is brown rice the way to go?
Yeah, there's a little bit of extra protein and fiber that way. It's a little bit more filling.
Okay, great. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming into chat. So thank you again. This has been really informative.
Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Good
Have a
night.
great night. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.